This presentation will discuss the Title II Part A Prioritization of Funds requirement that is part of the random validation process for 21-22. We will go over the documents the LEA will need in order to participate in the random validation, as well as the specific items that TEA staff will review. Before we begin, we want to point out that documenting overall compliance with a program requirement may require several forms of documentation to be maintained locally and available upon request by TEA and/or an auditor. To ensure overall compliance with program requirements, LEAs should refer to the program guide and/or other program-related resources that reference the multiple forms of documentation required to be maintained locally. The documentation requested for submission during the random validation process may not include all forms of documentation that are required to be maintained locally. To complete this random validation, the LEA will need the 2021-2022 Random Validation Submission Packet and Handbook that are specific to the Title II Part A Prioritization of Funds requirement. These documents were emailed on October 4th, 2021 to those LEAs that were selected for this validation. All of the random validation monitoring resources are also available on TEA's ESSA Random Validation Monitoring webpage. Title II Part A statute requires that the LEA prioritize the use of Title IIA funds to schools that are under Title I school improvement and have the highest percentage of low-income children. Acceptable evidence of the prioritization of Title IIA funds would be documentation that shows Title II Part A activities and their costs for each campus within the LEA, demonstrated that funds were prioritized to schools served by the LEA under Title I school improvement and to schools that have the highest percentage of low-income children. Issues that may result in an improvement needed status for the prioritization of funds requirement include the following. Auditable documentation requested was not submitted. Documentation submitted does not demonstrate how Title II Part A funds were prioritized to campuses. Prioritization was not related to school improvement status or low income percentage. Or documentation from a prior school year was submitted instead of current year documentation. Specific instructions for uploading the completed submission packet and the supporting documentation are available in the 2021-2022 Random Validation Handbook for this requirement. Questions related to the 2021-2022 random validation process may be directed to program staff through the division telephone number at 512-463-9499 or the division email address essasupport@tea.texas.gov.